and he's missed some time. I think that's why, you kind of get to this day here. But I
counting about $30 million against the salary cap.
Releasing wide receiver Mike Williams coming off an ACL.
So the LA Chargers were in a very difficult situation this offseason. They've made some remarkable moves, don't get me wrong. They also suffered some losses that are very tough for some fans to stomach, and there may be some more on the way. And on top of this, they may have potentially helped their biggest division rival. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, work! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? I've always been a huge fan of how aggressive the LA Chargers have been to build around Justin Herbert. Whether it was always making sure that he had an all-world wide receiving core, which yes, I know the drafting of Quentin Johnson wasn't really the greatest pick, but the intention of selecting a wide receiver in the first round implies that they were dedicated to making sure that Justin Herbert had all the weapons he needed. But in the summer of 2022, they really went all in. They signed JC Jackson to a huge contract, which flopped, but they traded for Khalil Mack, which ended up being one of the greatest moves they've made since drafting Justin Herbert. I mean, Khalil Mack was able to notch 17 sacks this past year. He's had 25 sacks since joining the LA Chargers alone. And this team was consistently going all in because Justin Herbert was on a rookie scale contract. Unfortunately for them, they had Brandon Staley as their head coach, who just proved to be completely inept whenever it came to managing football situations. At this point, I guess you could either say Brandon Staley is a fraud or is just a really good defensive coordinator, but not necessarily the greatest head coach. Or maybe he gets another chance in the future. All I could say is he definitely squandered a team that had the potential to make it to the Super Bowl, and we made a whole video on that. The crazy thing is when the Chargers traded for Khalil Mack, the hope was that he would pair with Joey Bosa to make one of the most feared rushing duos in the NFL. And the crazy thing about this is Joey Bosa was only able to play in 14 games with Khalil Mack. He only started in 9 of those games. Bosa has been battling injuries for the past 2 years. So all of this puts the Los Angeles Chargers in a very challenging situation. Now look, I think the Chargers have made remarkable moves so far during the offseason. I love the big swing for Jim Harbaugh. I think it could be the difference between Justin Herbert finally making that run to the Super Bowl, or finally giving the Kansas City Chiefs some legitimate competition in their division, or consistently failing in these types of close game situations that Brandon Staley failed in. But at the same time, the new general manager of the Los Angeles Chargers, Joe Hortiz, inherited a very difficult salary cap situation. You see, when you go all in on a team, typically you start paying your best players the amount that they want, with the knowledge that one day the chickens are going to come home to roost. To give you an idea, last year the Los Angeles Chargers restructured Keenan Allen and Mike Williams to save $14.5 million heading into free agency. They also did the same thing for Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. And now, as a result of it, they had to pay back this year. When you look at the highest cap hits for 2024, obviously the top players are going to be quarterbacks. So Deshaun Watson has the highest cap hit for the Cleveland Browns. Then you got Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, and Daniel Jones. But when you get to non-quarterback cap hits, that's when you get into some trouble for the Los Angeles Chargers, because you have Khalil Mack, then Joey Bosa, Keenan Allen, Aaron Donald, and then Mike Williams. This situation has put the Los Angeles Chargers in a very difficult position, because it means that they'll likely have to release or trade either Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Keenan Allen, or Mike Williams in order to get underneath the cap threshold. And it's a very difficult decision to make. The only player that has been consistent out of this core group is Khalil Mack, who's been awesome ever since he arrived in Los Angeles, but obviously he's getting a little older. He's going into his 11th season in the NFL. In the case of Joey Bosa, whenever he's on the football field, he's incredible. He's going into his 9th season in the NFL, and over the past 2 years, he hasn't been on the football field. Then you have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Mike Williams is entering his age 30 season and is incredible when he's on the football field. And the same thing could be said about Keenan Allen, who's currently 31 years old, who has had injury issues throughout his his career, but recently he's done a better job staying on the football field. And it seems like part one of the Chargers' plan was officially kicked underway when they announced that they were releasing Mike Williams in order to save $20 million against their cap and allowing Mike Williams to become a free agent. Obviously, this is not an easy move to make if you're the Los Angeles Chargers, but it's a move that they were anticipating. You don't draft a wide receiver in the first round of the NFL draft if you don't suspect moving on from a wide receiver in the future. So in the case of the LA Chargers, they were hoping that Quentin Johnson could take over for Mike Williams or Keenan Allen once they had to depart with one of those players. And ultimately, it became Mike Williams. Now, can Quentin Johnson take over for the role that's left behind by Mike Williams? It's very difficult to say. He had a very underwhelming rookie season, especially compared to Jackson Smith-Njigba and Zay Flowers, who he's consistently getting compared to. But who knows, maybe year two is what he needs to take the next step. Maybe the Greg Roman offense will make things easier for him, or maybe he's just going to continue to regress. At the end of the day, when Quentin Johnson was drafted, he was perceived as a similar type of player as Mike Williams, a big-bodied red zone threat who apparently had stone hands in his first year. In the case of Mike Williams, it's really tough to see him go because whenever he's fully healthy, he is one of the top wide receivers in the NFL, but so far he's only had 2 seasons where he's played in all of his games. He's had 2 seasons where he's had over 1,000 yards receiving. His breakout season came in 2021, and it's gonna get a lot scarier for Mike Williams. I'll get to that in just a sec. Now, in addition to this, 8-time Pro Bowl defensive end and former NFL Defensive Player of the Year Khalil Mack is going to stay a Los Angeles Charger this season and free up salary cap space for the team by agreeing to restructure his deal per sources. So Mike Williams leaves and Khalil Mack stays. Now, what about Joey Bosa? That's where it gets pretty tricky. You see, by officially releasing Mike Williams today, the Chargers are now cap compliant, so they don't need to make any other moves. So eventually we would find out the fate of Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen. The LA Chargers would announce shortly after cutting Mike Williams that they agreed to restructures with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, allowing them to keep their elite pass rushers on the team. My original assumption was maybe the LA Chargers decide to part ways with one of their wide receivers and one of their pass rushers. I was personally speculating maybe Joey Bosa leaves due to his recent injury history, but it seems like I was completely wrong because in an absolute bombshell of a report, the LA Chargers approached star wide receiver Keenan Allen about a pay cut today, which he declined. The team then decided to trade him away to Chicago. According to Adam Schefter, the LA Chargers are trading wide receiver Keenan Allen to the Bears for a 4th-round pick, as Jay Glazer reported. I know Chargers fans might do a spit take, but I actually think this is an incredible trade for both sides. You have to understand where each team is coming from. The LA Chargers are doing whatever they can to save money against the cap as they recover from the Tom Telesco era. The best way for them to do that was cutting Mike Williams, restructuring their pass rushers' contracts, and trading Keenan Allen, who has been incredible, don't get me wrong, but he's also about to turn 32 years old, and he's already played in the NFL for over 10 seasons. In addition to that, Greg Roman offenses haven't historically been the most prolific passing offenses, and the Chargers have the opportunity to draft a wide receiver in the first round of the NFL draft because they have the 5th overall pick in the NFL draft. You have a wide receiver that you spent a 1st-round pick on last year in Quentin Johnson. You have the opportunity to select another wide receiver with the 5th overall pick in this year's NFL draft. It's not a big deal if you do or if you don't, although it is kind of scary depending on Quentin Johnson to be your wide receiver 1, and you do get pretty good value in return for Keenan Allen. Now, before you click off this video, a 4th-round pick is an overpay for Keenan Allen, and this isn't to say Keenan Allen's terrible by any means. This is a man that's made it to the Pro Bowl in 6 of his past 7 years. Truly one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. The problem is his age. Keenan Allen is going into his age 32 season. This is a similar type of trade as when the Cowboys traded Amari Cooper to the Browns, or when the Houston Texans traded Brandon Cooks to the Cowboys. The first team is trying to move away from this wide receiver's cap hit, and usually the wide receiver is still in his 30s and might have 1 to 3 more seasons left. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad trade for the Chicago Bears. This is an excellent trade for the Chicago Bears. I'm saying that the fact that the Chargers got a 4th-round pick in return for a player that has been on their roster for 10 years that was selected in the 3rd round is excellent, and you should be very proud of that return. For the Chicago Bears, this trade was a no-brainer. Whether you decide to select Caleb Williams with the number 1 overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft and completely reset the clock at the quarterback position contract-wise, or move forward with Justin Fields, whoever decides to take snaps for you next year is going to be significantly more comfortable with with this brand new offense that you built, DeAndre Swift, DJ Moore, and now Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen brings a great veteran presence into that locker room, and now the Bears have flexibility with the 9th overall pick in this year's NFL draft as well. I think this is a home run for the Chicago Bears, and I give them an A for this trade. I give the Chargers a B-, not because it was a bad move, but mainly because they get weaker as a result of this trade. And if the gamble pays off and Quentin Johnson and whoever they select with the 5th overall pick overachieve, then you get cheaper receiving for the next 4 to 5 years. So it might even be worth it. Let me know in the comment section down below what do you guys think about this trade. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.